go ahead and start this. Okay, so we are going to do Genesis 47 48 today. So last week we saw Joseph reveal himself to his brothers, remember? And we had that big emotional breakdown with Joseph and all of his brothers. And Pharaoh sends a caravan to go get Joseph's family. So we got Jacob, we got little ones, we got wives, we got all the people that come down to Egypt. So we've now got everybody in Egypt. Okay, so the next two chapters kind of talk about what happened to Jacob, and we're wrapping up Jacob's story today, of kind of his last farewell. Okay, and then next week we are going to do the last two chapters, and we're going to talk about the blessings and the end of Joseph's life. So today we're going to focus a lot on Jacob and Jacob's last couple of things. Okay, so Genesis 47 verse 1. So Joseph went in and told Pharaoh, "My father and my brothers, with their flocks and herds and all that they possess, have come from the land of Canaan. They are now in the land of Goshen." And from among his brothers he took 5 men and presented them to Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to his brothers, "What is your occupation?" And they said to Pharaoh, "Your servants are shepherds, as our fathers were." Then they said to Pharaoh, "We have come to sojourn in the land, for there is no pasture for your servants' flocks, for the famine is severe in the land of Canaan. And now please let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen." Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Your father and your brothers have come to you. The land of Egypt is before you. Settle your father and your brothers in the best of the land. Let them settle in the land of Goshen. And if you know any able men among them, put them in charge of my livestock." Alright, so everybody shows up in Egypt, and Joseph takes 5 of his brothers. Remember, he gave them a little pep talk. He says, if Pharaoh asks you such and such question, this is how you're supposed to respond. Okay, so he gives them a little pep talk. But it's interesting, he only takes 5 of his brothers, not all 11 of them. Okay, he probably doesn't want to overwhelm Pharaoh. They are already an abomination in Pharaoh's eyes, so he doesn't want them to appear to be an army coming to take things from Pharaoh. So he just takes 5 of them. And it's interesting that this is a confirmation of Egyptian culture and the understanding that Joseph had of the culture, because 5 is one of the most important numbers in Egyptian culture. It represented the universe and the afterlife. It also, they believed that a person was made up of 5 different parts. And they believe that when Pharaoh died, he became a 5-pointed star. So Joseph is kind of really showing here how he understands the Egyptian culture and the representation of the number 5. And we see that in how he treats his brother too. He gives him 5 times as much food. Remember when they were sitting at the banquet? And he gives him 5 sets of clothes. So he is kind of bringing in that Egyptian influence into his decisions here as he treats his brothers. All right. So Pharaoh honors Joseph and his extended families, and he says, "Yep, you can settle in the land of Goshen. We're going to take care of you." But did you catch the little dig that Pharaoh gives to the brothers? He says to Joseph, "Hey, if you know any able-bodied men among your brothers, let them take care of my flocks," in front of 5 of his brothers. So, do you hear the dig there?
No.
Okay, he's got 5 brothers standing there.
And they don't appear able.
They don't appear able.
Oh my.
To Pharaoh. He goes, "Hey, if you got any brothers who are strong enough and able enough and would be good to take care of my flocks, you let me know."
So did he not think they were
He
good
did not
enough?
think that they were good
Not
enough.
good enough, just not physically
Yes.
capable.
Physically capable.
Okay.
So we kind of get the idea that Joseph kind of picked some of the lower brothers as to not have an influence and be the big and strong brothers, that he might have picked the younger ones, the little weaker ones, so not as to like oppose Pharaoh.
Were they older? The older brothers?
We're not sure exactly. He might have picked like the physically, weaker ones versus
Right,
the big
right,
strong
right.
guys. Because if you walked in there with 10 big old strong guys, Pharaoh's going, okay, what, they're kind of oppressing
Sure.
there. He takes, so we kind of get a little dig from Pharaoh and also kind of Joseph's choices there. So it's really interesting that we
Well,
get
you
that.
look at them and you think they don't need anything from us. They look good.
They look good. They're
Yeah.
kind of here to take over.
Right, yeah.
And so, yeah, we get a little, okay, well, if you know anybody who could handle the job, let me know.
Yeah.
And so, in front of 5 of his brothers.
Well, it's like the homeless guy on the corner that
Right.
looks physically like you and me.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need my help.
Yeah.
So,
So, yeah, it's kind of funny there that, so Pharaoh gets a little bit of dig into these shepherds. So they are literally the lowest class in Pharaoh's eyes. Like, they are basically.
But Joseph isn't.
But Joseph isn't. He's second in command.
mhm.
So, yeah, but this is his family, so he is promising to take care of his family. So he gives them a land. It's kind of separated from the bigger cities, but it is going to be a land that is going to be very, very good after the famine ends. So he's kind of setting them up for future success. Okay? Alright, so verse 7. Then Joseph brought in Jacob his father. So he brought the brothers in first, and then he's going to bring in his father before Pharaoh. And stood him before Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Jacob, how many are the days of your life? And Jacob said to Pharaoh, the days of my life, the days of the years of my sojourn are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, and they have not attained to the days of the years of the lives of my fathers in the days of their sojourning. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh, and went out from the presence of Pharaoh. Then Joseph settled his father and his brothers, and gave them a possession in the land of Egypt, in the best of the land, in the land of Ramses, as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph provided for his father, his brothers, and all his father's house with food according to the number of their dependents. Okay? So Joseph brings his father in.
Doesn't mean that Jacob blessed Pharaoh.
Yeah, it's very interesting that Pharaoh allows this, because Pharaoh is considered a god among them, and so he is the one who is allowed to bless others. And yet he accepts not one but two
I thought that was
blessings.
weird too. I was like, did they miswrite that?
Yeah, no. He accepts
Is that a
two
typo?
blessings from Joseph, from this little old shepherd man, and Pharaoh is allowing him to bless him. So he is, you
Why
can
did
see
he
the
care how
honor.
many years he lived?
He wants to know how old he is. Because Pharaoh is not old. Pharaoh's actually died fairly young because they were so inbred that they did not live a long life. They usually died in their 20s or 30s.
Oh wow.
And now this man is standing before him and he says, I'm 130. But he actually says, all of the people who have come before me have lived way longer than I have. We have people who are living 300 and 400,
Yeah.
500 years. He's only lived 130. But he's looking at a young Pharaoh.
Okay.
And they die very young. Yeah, so Pharaoh is interested in, he lived a long time. I want to know why. What
'Cause
magic
they're not
do you have?
Yeah.
They're not inbred for one, yeah. Yeah, what magic do you possess that we could kind of, get the wisdom from to live a long life? Yeah. So yeah, you hear the wisdom of Pharaoh in here in his questions. But he says that the days of his life are evil. It's
Why?
very interesting. Why
Because his
evil?
brother sold him into slavery.
He's probably focusing on all the negative.
Is
instead
he
of all
also the brother that was
blessings.
switched places with back in the beginning?
So when he looks back at his life, he doesn't count God's blessings. He sees all the evil that has happened in his life.
Okay.
It's very interesting.
My
Jacob's
version
perspective.
says, my pilgrimage has lasted 130 years, so my years have been few and hard.
Few and hard. Yeah.
But that's comparatively.
Comparatively speaking to all of his previous
For
ancestors.
us, that's not a
Not
few
so
years.
much.
I don't want to live to be 130.
Yeah. 130 is not few, and Jacob's life hasn't been that hard. He has been blessed by God and being taken care of by God. But you see where Jacob's focus is on all the bad stuff instead of on all of his blessings. Yeah. Because remember, he's also mourned for his son for the last 23 years. He's believed that he's lost his favorite wife, he's lost his favorite sons, So yeah, so Jacob is focusing on
Oh, I had
that.
a moment of confusion. So it wasn't the son.
It's not Joseph.
It's not
It's
Joseph.
Jacob.
It's Jacob.
Jacob, his
Okay.
father. Yes.
I'm like,
Joseph is there with his dad, but
Yeah.
his dad is speaking.
and then Jacob blessed the Pharaoh.
Yes, Jacob blessed Pharaoh twice.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's a high honor that the Pharaoh allows him to bless him.
Okay.
Okay, so verse 13. Now there was no food in the land, for the famine was very severe, so that the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan languished by reason of famine. And Joseph gathered all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan in exchange for the grain that they bought. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. And when the money was all spent in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, Give us food. Why should we die before your eyes? For our money is gone. And Joseph answered, Give me your livestock, and I will give you food in exchange for your livestock, if your money is gone. So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and Joseph gave them food in exchange for their horses, their flocks, their herds, and their donkeys. He supplied them with food in exchange for all their livestock that year. And when that year was ended, they came to him the following year and said, We will not hide from my lord that our money is all spent. The herds of our livestock are our lord's. There is nothing left in the sight of my lord but our bodies and our land. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for food, and we with our land will be servants to Pharaoh. and give us seed that we may live and not die, and the land may not be desolate. So Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh, and all the Egyptians sold their fields, because the famine was very severe. The land became Pharaoh's. As for the people, he made servants of them, and from one end of Egypt to the other. Only the land of the priests he did not buy. And for the priests he fixed an allowance from Pharaoh, and lived on the allowance that Pharaoh gave them therefore they did not sell their land. Then Joseph said to the people, Behold, I have this day bought you and your land for Pharaoh. Now here is seed for you, and you shall sow the land. And at the harvest you shall give 1/5 to Pharaoh, and 4/5 shall be your own, as seed for the field, and as food for yourselves and your households, and as food for your little ones. And they said, You have saved our lives. May it please our Lord, we will be servants to Pharaoh. So Joseph made it a statute concerning the land of Egypt, and it stands to this day, that Pharaoh should have 1/5. The land of the priests alone did not become Pharaoh's. Okay, so we're nearing the end of the last 7 years of this famine, and it's long, it's hard. We hear that in their cries here that they're running out of money. They don't have any more money to buy grain from Joseph, okay? So they offer up their livestock. Now, why the livestock? You think if they had livestock, they would just eat it, right?
Right, I was thinking the same
But
thing.
they didn't have money to feed the livestock.
They don't have
grain
money
to feed the
Feed the
livestock.
livestock, correct. So their livestock is probably very sick, very thin. There's probably not a whole lot of meat left on their bones, okay? And you can live without meat, okay? The vegetarian lifestyle proves that you can live without meat. You cannot live without the nutrients that grain and bread and things like that would survive. So they decide to give over these livestock in exchange of surviving. Well, they're not just giving it over to be sacrificed. These livestock would then be taken care of by the royal family, who could provide for them, breed them, give them back over, and maybe sell them later on back to the people. Okay, so we have this system that Joseph is agreeing with, and we have some wisdom here of Joseph's part. And he also then later on says that makes them through a year of selling all their livestock, and they still have another year to go. But after this, Joseph knows that the famine is going to end. And then we've got to plant in order for everything to come back, okay? So they say they are the ones who offer themselves and their land, okay? So now we're going to enter into indentured servitude here. We can have our land.
The future.
Okay. We get a little bit of foreshadowing here.
So is
Okay.
it the Egyptians that
What?
become servants, or the Hebrews?
These are the Egyptians. Yes. Okay. The Egyptians are willing to give up themselves and their land for Pharaoh. Okay. So the last year, their land is going to belong to Pharaoh, and their labor is going to belong to Pharaoh. They're going to plant, they're going to sow, they're going to prepare for this harvest that they are counting on is going to happen the following year. And Joseph also writes into law that 1/5 of all future harvests would go directly to Pharaoh. So it's like this tax.
You
to
said
pay
it's still
back.
it's still a law today?
It was when
When
Moses wrote it.
Okay.
Yes. Not today.
But didn't,
I was gonna say, who's getting all that?
I'm a little skeptical here. Because didn't they collect the tax to get the grain for the 7 years? Right? The people gave the grain for the 7 years.
During the years of feasting,
Right.
yes, they gave a portion of their food to the
But they still have to buy it
storehouses.
back.
Mm-hmm.
They have to buy now grain later. Yeah, and it all goes to Pharaoh. So now we see why Pharaoh becomes very, very rich and owns all of the land.
Are the people bitter about that?
Probably some, but you're talking about a
They
matter
just
of
wanna live.
survival here.
They wanna be
Yeah.
fed.
They want to be fed, but this
Okay.
is also now going to guarantee future success.
But this was Joseph's idea.
This is Joseph's idea. This is
So
part of the
that's what's
whole-
confusing me.
Yeah, so, you know,
He's thinking of long term though.
right,
Because he knows this famine is going to end. He is convinced this famine is going to end.
sure.
Everybody else they've been starving for 7 years. They don't know if this famine is going to end. So Joseph is enacting these things to give them hope for the future. Every future harvest that you are going to have, we're going to tax in order to pay back what you owe to Pharaoh. We are going to feed you, but you're going to pay us back over this long term. So
But
think of
if-
it as long term.
If Pharaoh has a lot of money,
Does he
Joseph has a lot of money.
Yes. But he's on a income. It's not going directly to Joseph's
Right,
bank
right.
account, it's going to
He's
Pharaoh's.
being paid well though.
He's being paid. Yes.
Does he understand you think he understands what's gonna happen in the future?
No.
No,
He doesn't
he's
know about
setting
the
them up to
slavery
be
of the
slaves,
people.
yeah.
But he knows that
What's the
Egypt has to
foreshadowing?
survive. That the Hebrew people will become slaves in the land. Because Pharaoh now is realizing, hey, I have the ability to buy people.
And there's a lot of them.
And there's a lot of
A
them.
lot of them. Yes.
And the Egyptians are willing to sell themselves. And then when the Egyptians become free, they turn around and look and go, we've got all these Hebrew people that owe us for taking care of them. We can make them
During the
slaves
famine?
later on.
Later on.
When they start getting to be more populated.
Okay.
Yeah. So it kind of trickles down.
We'll learn this next year.
Why?
We're gonna
We're
do
gonna
this
cover it
next
next year.
Yes.
Okay.
Alright,
I don't
so
know anything.
you hear the repetition of 5. Okay, so Joseph again says a fifth. So that's the repetition of 5.
Yeah.
And the only people who are exempt from all of this are the priests, including Joseph's father-in-law. You know, he wants to keep dad on, father-in-law on his good side. But basically, the Pharaoh is going to take care of all of the priests. And this is how Pharaoh becomes increasingly wealthy and owns all of the land at the end of this famine. So the whole Pharaoh family becomes increasingly rich in the land of Egypt. But their people survive. Okay? Alright, so verse 27. Thus Israel settled in the land of Egypt and the land of Goshen, and they gained possessions in it, and were fruitful and multiplied greatly. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the days of Jacob, the years of his life, are 147.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't Israel and Jacob the same person?
Yes.
Why? Why do they in 2 sentences have to call them 2 different things?
Remember we talked about that last week. So when
Well,
you
no, I
hear
don't.
Jacob, remember it's talking about the fleshly man.
Oh, let me write that down.
When it uses the word Jacob, fleshly man, Israel is spiritual covenant. So it is interchangeable. It's the same person, but usually watch when they're using which one. Jacob is usually referring to the man standing before you here, the flesh, the guy who thinks his life has been horrible for 147 years. Israel is usually talking about future, covenant, promise, relationship with God, nations. So that's usually why it interchanges. Yep. Alright. Because we're talking about Israel settles in the land to fulfill the promise that all these people are going to come from, but Jacob dies. So you see that flesh and spirit in that same sentence.
What did you say?
Israel settles in the land, his people, his nation will start and survive. And then when it switches to Jacob, we hear Jacob dies. So the man, the flesh, dies. So you see that switch happen and why it happens.
Okay.
Alright, verse 29. And when the time drew near that Israel must die, he called his son Joseph and said to him, if now I have found favor in your sight, put your hand under my thigh. Remember, where is that? Not exactly the thigh. Closer inward. And promise to deal kindly with me and truly with me. Do not bury me in Egypt, but let me lie with my fathers. Where are they?
Back.
Canaan. They're back in Canaan. Carry me out of Egypt and bury me in their burying place. And he answered, I will do as you have said. And he said, swear it to me. And he swore it to him. And Israel bowed himself upon the head of his bed. Okay. So Jacob is 147. He lives 17 years in Egypt, which means he gets to see the famine end. He gets to see everyone start multiplying and the promises come true for his family before he dies. He wants to enter into a covenant because he doesn't want to be buried in Egypt. Egypt is not the promised land. It's just the land of survival for them. But it's not their promised land. He wants to go be taken back to Canaan. He firmly believes that God is going to keep his promise to them that their homeland is Canaan, not Egypt. Okay? So Jacob, we're told, passes away. Here, this kind of wraps up his life, but we are going to get the last couple of days of his life in chapter 48 and 49. So let's do 48 real quick.
Why does he have to put his hand under his thigh?
When we talked about that, he's actually putting it closer inward.
Under his baby?
Inside the thigh.
Inside the thigh.
Inside the thigh.
His stuff.
His stuff. His manhood.
Okay.
Because that is the most vulnerable place
Okay.
on a man.
My
And you're
gracious.
saying, swear to me that you are going to do what I've asked you to do. So it
Well, you're
is,
holding my
you're
testimony.
really serious. We just did it with a handshake.
Like, who decided that was gonna be
That rule.
Yeah.
Like,
So it's a way we would do a handshake. You know how handshakes sealed a contract? This was a different kind of handshake that sealed the contract. Because you're talking about future, you're talking about vulnerability, you're talking about all those things that you've got in the palm of your hand.
I
So that's the symbolism right there.
I get it.
Yeah.
My gracious.
But she gets it.
Yeah, you don't want to enter that kind of contract nowadays. No.
Yep.
Yeah, that was changed. All right, chapter 48. After this, Joseph was told, "Behold, your father is ill." He took with him his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, and it was told to Jacob, "Your son Joseph has come to you." Then Israel summoned his strength and sat up in bed. And Jacob said to Joseph, "God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me, and said to me, Behold, I will make you fruitful and multiply you, and I will make you a company of peoples, and will give this land to your offspring after you for an everlasting possession. And now your 2 sons, who were born to you in the land of Egypt before I came to you in Egypt, are mine. Ephraim and Manasseh shall be mine, as Reuben and Simeon are. And the children that you fathered after them shall be yours. It shall be called by the name of their brothers in their inheritance. As for me, when I came to Padan Aram, to my sorrow, Rachel died in the land of Canaan on the way, where there was still some difference to go to Ephrath. And I buried her there on the way of Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. When Israel saw Joseph's sons, he said, Who are these? Joseph said to his father, They are my sons, whom God has given me here. And he said, Bring them to me, please, that I may bless them. Now the eyes of Israel were dim with age, so that he could not see. So Joseph brought them near, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, I have never expected to see your face, and behold, God has let me see your offspring also. Then Joseph removed them from his knees, and he bowed his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand towards Israel's right hand, and brought them near to him. And Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on the head of Ephraim, who was the younger, and his left hand on the head of Manasseh, crossing his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. Okay? So it does get a little confusing here. Joseph realizes his time's short. He wants to bless his grandchildren, these 2 sons. Typically, this would be done at birth. You would, after the baby was born, you would put it on grandpa's knee and he would bless them. But these were not born in Canaan, so they have missed that blessing. So Jacob wants to bless his 2 sons. Okay, so he's recounting how God has met him, and he also tells Joseph, his sons, these 2 grandkids are now going to replace, in his eyes, Reuben and Simeon. Because remember, they lost their inheritance. Okay, he is now replacing them with the grandsons. Okay, he's adopting Ephraim and Manasseh as the highest replacement in his line of these 12 sons. Okay, he's also lamenting his favorite wife's death. But remember, whose mother is that? Joseph's. And their grandmother. So he's remembering his favorite wife and seeing the legacy that she has missed seeing here.
I have a question. Can they not, you know how he blessed them? He blessed the oldest one first. Can you not bless both of them?
It's a difference between a blessing and an inheritant blessing.
Oh, this is an inheritance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's replacing Reuben and Simeon with these 2, as if he was blessing his first and second child.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
I get it.
So Jacob kind of comes back to the present, and he's kind of asking, who are these boys? And Joseph reminds them, so you kind of hear, Jacob's getting a little senile, he's 147. He's kind of like coming back to the moment of like, oh, who are these people? And he's so overwhelmed at seeing them that he wants to bless them. And in a mirror moment to Jacob's own family, what did he do when Isaac wanted to bless Esau? He tricked him. Okay, so we have this mirror moment, and we're told it was because Isaac's eyes were dim. He couldn't tell the difference between the 2. This is Jacob, the trickster, sitting here, and he sees his 2 grandsons. Joseph is pushing the oldest towards his right hand of blessing, and the younger towards the left hand of lower blessing. And when Jacob reaches out to bless them, he crosses his hands. And he blesses the youngest with his right hand, says he will be bigger than his older brother. He crosses his hands. Okay, so that's what happened in verse 15. And he blessed Joseph, so he's got his hands crossed, but he's blessing his son, the God before whom my father Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has been my shepherd all my life long this day, the angel who has redeemed me from all evil. Bless the boys, and in them let my name be carried on, the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow in multitude in the midst of the earth. Okay, so he's saying this blessing. Verse 7, when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand on the hand of Ephraim, it displeased him. And he took his father's hand to move it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's hand. And Joseph said to his father, not this way, my father, since the one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. But his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. Nevertheless, the younger brother shall be greater than he, and his offspring shall become a multitude of nations. So he blessed them that day, saying, by you Israel will pronounce blessings, saying, God make you like Ephraim and like you as Ephraim and as Manasseh. Thus he put Ephraim before Manasseh. Then Israel said to Joseph, behold, I am about to die, but God will be with you, and will bring you again to the land of your fathers. Moreover, I have given you rather than your brothers one mountain slope that I took from the hand of the Amorites with my sword and with my bow. Okay, so remember, Joseph's got his face in the dirt, okay, and his father is blessing his boys, and he looks up, and he realizes that dad has crossed his hands. And he goes to try to pull his hand away.
Because that's what happened to him.
Because that's what happened to Jacob.
Yeah.
Okay, and Jacob says, no, I know. I might be blind, but I'm not stupid. Okay, I know what I'm doing. He is blessing the younger instead of the older, okay? And we have this theme that has been repeated through Genesis. So why do we have this theme that has been repeated time after time after time from the very beginning? Why is the younger always blessed over the firstborn?
Why?
Because it foreshadows the entire rest of the Bible and the New Testament.
Gospel.
The gospel. Jesus is the firstborn.
Right.
And yet he is the one who sacrifices his position as firstborn
Oh.
in order to give it to us,
Oh my gosh,
the
I just got
secondborn.
goosebumps.
I
Wow.
wrote it down and I don't remember where I wrote it down and I wrote it
again.
somewhere.
Oh wow, that's
Wow.
wow.
Jesus is-
I mean, just
Jesus has half siblings, yes. That's a whole nother conversation.
I don't think I ever knew that.
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I'm so glad it's still recording. Amazing.
But yeah, so we see this theme in Genesis repeated, and they don't have any idea why they're doing it. But when we put the New Testament with it, Jesus is the firstborn, and yet he's the one who sacrifices. And we get the blessing of the firstborn. And so
Wow.
we see that foreshadowing in Genesis time and time and
It's
time
so
and time
cool.
again. And Jacob says, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. Now, how deep he knew, we don't know.
Yeah.
But he knew what he was doing.
That is crazy.
Yeah. Oh my
Okay.
gosh. Wow.
All right, so then he speaks this blessing over these two kids, okay? And he is reminded that, hey, we're going to go back to Canaan. And then he has this last little moment here that I don't want you to miss. This final last line that he says. He turns to Joseph, his son, and he says, I'm going to give you a piece of land, a mountain slope. And the Hebrew word for that mountain slope is Shechem. He says, I am going to give you Shechem. Okay? So it has been the only land that Jacob had purchased in the promised land, and it was where the slaughter happened. Now, the slaughter happens after he purchases the land, but it's the only land Jacob owns in the promised land, and he says, I'm going to give it to Joseph. And we have recorded in Joshua 24:32, so this is after the exile, this is way in the future, we have, as for the bones of Joseph, which the people of Israel brought up from Egypt, they buried him at Shechem, in the piece of land that Jacob had brought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for 100 pieces of money. It became an inheritance of the descendants of Joseph. And then when we read through all the different pieces of land, it is Ephraim that gets that piece of land when they come to conquer Canaan. And so Jacob's prophecy comes true. He is buried there. Joseph inheritance in the name of Ephraim. They get that land of Shechem and are able to redeem it for what happened where Reuben and Simeon slaughtered those people. So that land is redeemed in the land of Israel.
Wow.